episode of Get the Ball Rowland here live on tape. From Denton, Texas, Nick Laupia is your host here, joined at the table by Roland Stevens, the namesake of this. Roland, it is great to have you here. You are quite the character, and then we also have Tommy McClear over here. He's the I'm trying to think of
I'm not really sure what I am.
He's the glue. He's the glue that holds us all together.
I'll take that.
He's something. He'll definitely have some over the top.
I feel like
comments.
I'm a good medium between the two of you.
Well, I'm just here for fun, so.
I guess so. All right, so Nick Laupia is here. Big Ranger fan, diehard Ranger fan. New ballpark coming out. Just got to visit that today. Very excited about that. It's a lot more of an intimate feel. A lot closer, very steep. It's going to be a lot of fun. Detroit Red Wings. Pray for me right now. It's a tough couple of years for the Winged Wheels.
Those guys might not win 20 games.
They might not. And
what are they at now?
I think they were 12.
Oh,
I think
good
they are at
God.
12 points.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're looking rough right there, but
yeah, it's not good. Dallas Mavericks. They have had a little bit of injuries. They just came off a loss today, and then San Francisco 49ers. I'll get to that a little bit later as to how I got involved with them. But I'll go ahead and toss it over to Roland Stevens.
Right. I'm Roland Stevens, as they call me. I am a diehard Cowboys fan, a Stars fan. Surprisingly, I'm a Cleveland Cavalier basketball fan.
I was really wondering if you were going to say Mavs or Cavs, and I'm glad you
Well,
said
I hate being that guy who goes, well, I pull for both teams, but if I had to choose, I'd definitely say Cavs. I definitely pull for Mavs because of Dallas, Texas. And baseball, I just kind of work in the shadows, watching the shadows, who I feel is a good team. So I've pulled for the Giants for a little bit. I went to a game in San Francisco. I've been a Rangers fan, but they continue to let me down even still. And as to Mr. McClear.
Yeah, I got to represent the 412 Pittsburgh, PA. Steelers, Pens, the Buccos, maybe.
My.
So no NBA team.
Nah.
No, they don't have an NBA
They
team.
don't.
Exactly, yeah, no NBA team.
I don't like basketball either. So, it adds to it.
We are all, I'm a UNT student. We have a couple of UNT freshly minted alumni here at the table. Congratulations, Roland and Tommy.
Thank you.
Completing,
alumnus.
Yes, alumnus.
My film degree.
Yes, getting your degree from the University of North Texas. So no doubt we'll have some UNT sports talk throughout the podcast. Big win today. We'll get to that later, though. We got some topics today. Inaugural episode. I know we're behind on this, but we are just now starting out. I want to start with the Houston Astros because more stuff is coming out over the past few days. I'm sure you guys already know the whole Astros thing, dating back all the way to 2017, using cameras and a trash can, live streaming to steal signs from opposing pitchers. And now it's coming out, a little more work being done, reviewing perhaps a couple of players using buzzers on their shoulders to get alerted when there's a fastball, and there's some video out there. MLB probably do some more investigating. But really, I think getting fined $5 million, that's really nothing. You get 4 draft picks taken away. That maybe make an impact for a few years, but not much. The general manager and the manager were fired. But I think in the Astros case, it's worth it because wouldn't you trade $5 million and 4 draft picks if you got a World Series title?
No, because they cheated.
Something I will say.
No, as easy as that.
Something I will say about that scandal is, as ridiculous as it sounds, it's almost all true. Mm-hmm. Banging on trash cans. I mean, just the sound of that alone, it makes you think that's silly. And now we have a buzzer on the shoulder, which I do believe, and I do have stats, so I think that do back that up. I definitely think that. I don't think we'll get to this, but whoever ratted them out and whoever came open about this allegations would not have done that if they knew they weren't going to get stripped of that title. Mm-hmm. And I definitely do think that World Series win should be stripped, not even handed to the Dodgers even. I just think that it should be left vacant and left in the open. I think this cheating goes that severely, and I'll go as far as to say I don't think we've seen a cheating scandal this deep.
That's a hot take.
This deep in our life, especially in our lifetime, but maybe ever.
Yeah, true.
For real. I mean, that's just how deep that goes, and the players that were involved in who are big name players. We got Correa, Altuve, all those guys working in together to make this happen. And I will say this: the thing that irks me the most about that cheating scandal is they did it off the I'm trying to find the good word. They did it after Houston got hit with that hurricane, after that city kind of needed that inspiration. And it definitely feels like this is...
Houston fans have been saying that they feel duped.
Oh, of course,
by that team.
Yeah.
Because now the comfort of like having that World Series win is kind of tarnished, and like that, of course, that sports helping a city recover. You know, like we've seen it with the Saints and Katrina, but
Except they didn't cheat.
exactly, yeah, right. But they had Bountygate, and so we'll Bountygate. But yeah, that's where it definitely irks me about that. Unless you guys have anything to add to that.
I mean, J.J. Watt, like, raising like $1 billion wasn't enough. They had to like cheat their way to a World Series to make everybody feel.
No, I don't think they didn't cheat for that. I will say that they didn't cheat or win that World Series to make that team heal better. But they definitely used that mantra of, "Oh, Houston's hurting, and we're gonna help them out."
Oh, all right. Stop abruptly there. I thought you were going to keep going. Well, Mike Fiers, the whistleblower, he was a former Astro who was on that team.
At the time?
Yes, back in 2017. Then he did not get re-signed that year. He went to a couple of different teams, and the reason that he gave for kind of ratting them out wasn't because he was hurt about not getting re-signed, but he said he saw a lot of younger pitchers on opposing teams getting like their debut at Minute Maid Park, and then they would get shelled and then sent immediately right back down to the minors. And also, I mean, if you're the Astros, I mean, how... you realize that a quarter of your team is probably going to leave at the end of every year, re-signing, stuff like that. How do you not think about that? And eventually someone was going to come, especially a pitcher like Mike Fiers.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's interesting. But a lot of people are saying, well, he only did that because he was hurt, that he didn't get re-signed. But I think it goes a lot more. I believe him that he did not like seeing younger pitchers getting their chances taken away.
And one thing I'll say is when you're teammates, there is definitely that fraternity. Having, played, growing up playing sports, played sports in high school, there is that fraternity and that locker room. But something I don't think ever really gets hammered home is just because you're teammates, that doesn't make you friends on any regard. And I definitely think in Mike Byers' case, when he's seeing these... Fires. Forgive me, I'm not a baseball guy.
God forbid someone misspeak.
But especially when you see a guy like him, it's people's dreams to pitch in the major leagues. And to go up and then get completely shelled afterwards, that's your livelihood. That's your bread maker right there, because people are like trying to make a livelihood out of that. They're trying to make money out of that. So I think I definitely think it goes a lot deeper to like him getting his feelings hurt. Because another thing too is like stats like that when it comes to batting definitely pads out a player. Like if you look at Altuve at home and away in that 2017 playoff series, at home his batting average
with the stats.
His batting average was 472, and compared to away, which is 143, so almost twice as much.
It's a huge drop off right there on the road.
Home runs at home 17. Oh wait, my bad. 17 hits at home, 6 home runs, and 12 run at bat RBIs, and then away 5 hits, 1 home run, and 2 RBIs. His stats like quadruple at times, and that definitely, to me, that's where I definitely believe that buzzer story. And I think everyone's seen the video where he's running home after that walk off, and he's telling his teammates, don't pull it off. And he's the first one in the heat of the moment, in the heat, not to celebrate with his teammates, but to run back into the dugout,
get his wire off.
Yeah,
and so people are saying that, read the report. MLB did an investigation. They said there was no signs of using a buzzer or anything. But Major League Baseball did admit that people like John Boy, who did the breakdown on Twitter, the video breakdown, that helped really expedite the process in the initial trash can thing. So now they've already said that they've seen the reports of potentially a buzzer, and they're going to go look back at that. So that'll be interesting to see what exactly does come out of that. But the fallout from this, obviously, you had your general manager and your manager fired from the Astros, but then you have 2 more managers fired with the Boston Red Sox, Alex Cora, and they won the year afterwards when he was the manager. And then
So is he cheating too on the Red Red Sox.
Yes. So there's and then you had
Big surprise, a Boston team.
And then you have Carlos Beltran, who hasn't managed a game yet for the Mets, stepped down because he was connected with all of this. So that's the fallout for that. Real quick before we move on, are you guys familiar with Pedro Martinez?
No.
Old Boston Red Sox pitcher. He was often outspoken.
How old? Like when?
Early 2000s.
Oh,
so this isn't too long ago when he played. He did say 2 days ago, quote, and I quote, if he was to do this when he was playing for the Houston Astros, I would say Mike Fiers has guts. But to go and do it when you leave the Astros because they didn't have you anymore, that shows me nothing. You're just a bad teammate.
No, because here's the thing.
That's coming from a pitcher.
Right. And it goes back earlier to when I said just because you're teammates doesn't mean you're friends. He's not owed the Astros anything to do that. He's not owed to keep that secretive from them. In fact, he should actually be heralded as the guy who went out and said, "Hey, we cheated." And now it shows these people that, hey, cheaters can win. You know what I'm saying? I definitely think it boils down to not being a bad teammate. It boils down to being a good person and doing what's ultimately the right thing.
Yeah, and honestly, I understand the locker room, brotherhood, fraternity. It makes you got to think though. It makes sense that one guy's gonna
eventually
rat on him.
Yeah.
How are you gonna get that many people on the same page? You know what I mean?
Right.
And then
at one time,
he's playing, for the Oakland A's now, and he goes in there. You think he's going to tell the other pitchers for the A's, hey, look out for this. When I was over here, the Astros were doing this at Minute Maid.
Exactly. You leave, and then, word gets out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, it's interesting. Obviously, more stuff is going to come out about that. We'll see the extent for what the Red Sox did. Be interesting to see what other teams.
I heard a thing, that meme with, the girl looking at the camera and, the house is burning in the background. The meme on the house was Astros, and the girl was, Red Sox, or whatever. So implying that the Red Sox have done worse, but no one's paying attention.
And nothing has come out. And Alex Cora, 2017, was the bench coach for the Astros when they had that system in place. 2018 Red Sox World Champions, that he was the manager for that team. But again, he was fired. Beltran stepped down. But again, we'll see if any more investigations come out and what other teams did. So that's all. We'll move on from that.
That's a wild story.
It is. It really is.
And it only gets crazy.
The guy's wearing a buzzer.
Yeah, allegedly. We don't know any.
You can see it through his shirt. There's plenty of pictures.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We don't have the capabilities to be a video podcast yet. So
it is going to be hard.
Pull up a picture.
It's going to be hard for that team to go on the road all year long.
Oh yeah.
From what they're going to hear from opposing fan bases, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tricky.
Let's go when they come here.
Don't worry. I'm going to the first game that they're here.
Is that they host the Astros at home?
Yes, they do.
Is that a thing they always do? They always host the Rangers and.
Oh yeah, and they have
Astros.
3 or 4 series, and they're in the same division.
Right.
So they play each other a lot throughout the year. So that's baseball. Big thing this weekend, or I guess
next weekend.
This upcoming weekend.
We're recording this on the weekend before.
Yes. Today's Saturday, the 25th of January.
Glad we could clarify that.
All right, Super Bowl, and much to Tommy's delight over here, no team from Massachusetts in the Super Bowl this year.
Worst sports city, well, I guess Boston. Worst sports city of all time.
I will say I won't go that far.
Lock it down.
I won't go that. I will not go that far. The one Boston team that does annoy me, the 2008 Boston Celtics have milked that championship for almost a decade now. And it's just every time they give a
team in their city has won 100 times since then.
Oakland has not even. They're not at that point where they're in that reflective state of mind where they're looking back on that championship. But it's all the time I see Bleacher Report showing me, 2008 champs, and they're all sharing a glass of wine or champagne. I'm like, move on. Good God, the 2011 Dallas Mavericks aren't like that. And they won it too.
Boston has
what an underdog team that was.
Oh, wow.
Boston has 6 or 7 championships since then. They're across the 3 other sports.
Exactly, but that Boston Celtics team will never make you forget it.
All right, so Chiefs,
or
Niners.
just Boston fans in general won't make.
Okay, Chiefs Niners, Tommy. Chiefs Niners.
Chiefs Niners. I assume most of the state of Texas will be going for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes.
East Texas boy.
Yeah,
I am from the East Texas area. I actually grew up about an hour away from where he went to high school.
Of course, had a great career at Texas Tech. Tommy, how'd the Chiefs get to this spot?
So let's take a look at the Chiefs' record this year, right? Mind you, Mahomes goes down. That was against the Broncos, So that's week 7. He misses Green Bay, he misses Minnesota, and he comes back limp against Tennessee. So he missed like 3 or 4 games.
Can I ask you a question? Was that a Thursday night game where he got hurt?
It's either a Thursday night or a Monday night.
I believe it was a Thursday night because that was a big debate on like if we should have.
Because he was already
games.
banged up from the week before, and Andy Reid had him do a QB sneak, and he like dislocated his knee. So they finished 12-4. Something I think is being slept on is since week 11 they had a bye week 12, but they went 1-2. They've won 6 straight, 8 straight if you include the last 2 weeks. So easily like the hottest team in the back half of the season. I think that's being slept on.
Well, it was the Ravens. They were the hottest team because I think, what were they, 2?
Yeah, I can't wait to watch them play Sunday.
Yeah, they were like, what, 2-2, I think, to start the season?
Yeah.
And then they kept that hot streak, and then Tennessee just blew them out.
They, so the Chiefs, 4 losses, right? Let me see.
Correct.
Right. Yes, they do have 4 losses.
Lost 19-13, 31-24, 35-32. I skipped one in there. Now you know. They were close games. they lost a lot of close games. So you could see them, being better, or you could say, they just barely won these games. But the ones they won, they kind of blew teams out of the water. So, yeah, that's how they got there. Good team, good offense, and their defense is heated up in the last, 6 weeks of the season, 8 if you count the 2 playoff games.
All right, and then you look over to the team representing the NFC, the 49ers.
So, that's obviously a different story, although they're only 1 record better, which is kind of weird because when I think about it, I don't know about you guys, I think of the Niners being like, this great team. It's literally won 1 more game than them. No offense, Nick. Yeah. But then I looked at their losses, right? So their first loss coming week 10, overtime against Seattle, 27-24.
And that was in San Francisco.
And Seattle's a good team. And that's something that I think it completely gets slept on, is I think Seattle should have beat Green Bay. So that's a good, there's no such thing as a good loss, but that's a good team to lose to.
And then 20-17 against Baltimore.
That was in the rain, in the conditions against Lamar Jackson. Last second, again, another last-second field goal at the end of regulation.
Then 29-22 against Atlanta. I don't know
how that's a game you should.
That's the outlier, right?
But it doesn't. But regardless, they started 9-0.
Yeah.
Right.
8-0. Yeah, 8-0. But so again, a lot of close games, but a lot of high-scoring close games. So I think it's gonna be a high-scoring close game.
Do you want to go ahead and throw out what you think will be the final score?
You guys go first. I need to calculate it.
Let's preview head-to-head position matchups before we get to that.
Right.
So, let's start at the quarterback position. You have Jimmy Garoppolo and then Patrick Mahomes.
Well,
I think it's obvious who's
if we're asking who's better, it's definitely Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. More so in the regard that they asked Patrick a little bit more, especially we saw in the NFC
a lot of it more.
Well, yeah, well, especially in the NFC championship game. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo threw 10 passes, maybe.
He threw 8, completed 6.
8 completed. Oh my God.
Oh my God. I didn't know.
See,
that.
Okay.
They didn't really need him.
They don't need Jimmy Garoppolo to win, honestly, and I don't mean that.
But how is that gonna fare in a Super Bowl?
Exactly, but it's a lot different. But that 3-headed running attack that they have, I'm sure we'll break down that position from the 49ers with Mozart, fill me in, who am I forgetting?
Coleman and
Breida.
Jeffrey Wilson Jr. Maybe if he can get some playing time.
Yeah.
Have a UNT guy in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, again,
how great would that be?
And even then, he's like a guy they put in when they need him. He scored 5 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah, winning touchdown.
He had multiple 2-touchdown games. So they just need Garoppolo to manage to make sure everything's okay. Because I don't know what game it was. Who did they play before Green Bay?
Oh, I just exited.
They played Minnesota.
Minnesota?
They took care of Minnesota.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think when he threw an interception, they ran the ball 11 straight plays.
Yeah. I think he threw 1 or 2 times after that interception the entire game.
See, so that if you're a quarterback, if you're a quarterback, what does that kind of say to you? That a coach doesn't trust in your abilities to throw again?
It says you're garbage.
I'm not going to go that far, but I'm
calling people out today.
Okay, well, by all means.
Quarterback position, and I'm very excited about this tight end. Probably the 2 best tight ends in the league, Kelsey and Kittle.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. I can't. Kelsey is. I don't want to be this guy, but he reminds me a lot of Antonio Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And the idea that he is like the perfect receiving tight end, but he's not afraid to get down and block people. That's what I'll say about Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz would be a much better tight end if he could block. He's an atrocious blocker. And they called him out on Hard Knocks. One of his former teammates, Mikael Hendricks, said, hey, he don't want that smoke when you go up to go block him. George Kittle, he looks like he has the time of his life on the field. And he's an aggressive blocker, and he's hard to take down.
He didn't get targeted very much in that.
When you're not
asking championship game,
when you're
just
not
blocking the whole time.
When you're not asking Jimmy Garoppolo to throw a lot of passes, you're not going to get 6 completed.
I think Kelsey was targeted twice. One
right.
he caught, and then one was the pass interference on 3rd down.
Right.
He's like a likable Gronk.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not as big, but he's still like a likable Gronk.
He reminds me his game reminds me a lot of Antonio Gonzalez. George Kittle to me, it's just he can do everything. He's their best offensive player.
More of a traditional tight end.
He's definitely the best.
So you look you're the Chiefs defensive coordinator these 2 weeks. How are you planning to stop the running attack for the Niners? Because they have a lot of pre-snap movement and then a lot of post-snap movement as well, where the fullback will kind of act like he's a lead blocker.
I hate that guy.
And then you have Juszczyk.
Yeah.
And then you'll have the running back either go the other way, a counter play or a jet sweep. I mean, they have a ton of weapons.
Right. It's hard to stop that team, and I think that's what gets them really far. But I think something that will hurt us teams going to the Super Bowl who do that kind of thing is instead of like the week-to-week game prep with maybe a bye week in between, there is 2 weeks to prep for that team. I would say the only time I've seen a team that was just on fire, just have nowhere to go and just look confused the whole time was definitely the Panthers against the Broncos, because you give Wade Phillips and that Denver defense 2 weeks to prepare, you don't know what's going to happen. And that was a hot offensive team, and I don't remember the final score off the top of my head, but I think they only scored 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like 13 or something. I think this is going to be much like the Patriots-Eagles one, where it's going to be back and forth. I think the 49ers are going to dominate them all, like running the clock down. The Chiefs are just going to score really fast and stay in it. It'll come down to some kind of turnover.
Who has the better defense?
San Francisco.
Definitely.
Oh my God!
I wanted to get that out there in I guess not writing, but
definitely
in audio form.
Definitely San Francisco, because if you look at that Kansas City defense, you see guys like Terrell Suggs, who's a free agent signing. You see guys like Tyrann Mathieu, who I believe is only on a 1-year contract, and you see guys like Frank Clark, who is an older, he was old. But he's old. And what I'm trying to say is I look at that 49ers defense, and I think that defense, and really that team as a whole, is just built to last a little bit longer than that Kansas City team, because that Kansas City team, I just kind of see 1-year guys, 2-year deal guys, older guys, and that's where
because they need to win now.
Exactly, and a lot of teams have been doing that recently. We look at the Philadelphia Eagles with signings like Jay Ajayi, Chris Long, guys like that, LeGarrette Blount. That was a team built for a championship run, but not built to last. So I definitely look at the Chiefs and I see that, where I think they can build around Mahomes in that time. This is a now-win situation for them, because now they have that 2-3 years where they can build around Mahomes.
Although I will say, Mahomes has some of the best pass protection in the league.
Oh, yeah.
He only got sacked like 17 times this season, but the Niners probably have the best defensive line in football.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, Pittsburgh's pretty good. They love the league in sacks.
So what about what's this deal with Solomon Thomas?
He doesn't play anymore. He's not any good.
Is he like a reserve?
So I'm looking at their depth chart right here.
Uh-huh.
And so like defensive end, you got Bosa on one side, and the other side you got Armstead and D Ford, who I assume it looks like they switch out.
Yeah.
And then so for the inside, there's Buckner, so he plays every down. And then they got this Sheldon Day guy. I don't know who he is. But then underneath there, it's Solomon Thomas. So, the guy basically doesn't start anymore.
First round. So, here's the side...
fourth overall.
Here's a side story. So, D Ford got that offensive, not encroachment, that defensive encroachments, offsides, against the Patriots, which would have been, if that had never happened, Brady would have thrown that pick and ended the game. So I think it was Frank Clark, forgive me if I'm wrong, but one of those Chiefs guys said, we can't wait to get back to D Ford, because D Ford is on the 49ers team that's now going to a championship. So what do you think is the better story, D Ford getting his redemption on another team, or Frank Clark and his revenge against D Ford?
I don't know.
Who would want that more, though?
Probably D Ford, because he's gotten ripped for a year. Especially, not only you screw your team over, you let the Patriots into the Super Bowl. I mean, nobody wants that.
Right.
The worst sports town in the U.S. Maybe in the world, honestly.
Maybe.
Okay, Philadelphia, I'm looking at you, but...
Yeah, it's up there.
All right, so Speaking of Philadelphia, just real quick. Gritty, the Flyers mascot.
Yeah.
That is what I want. If I'm a Philadelphia fan, I want my Philly sports mascots to have a rap sheet, right?
It works good for the city.
Yeah, the Philly Fanatic for the Phillies baseball team is the most sued sports mascot in the world.
That's wild.
Yeah,
oh my
think
God.
about it. Look that up. I'm not even kidding. Look that up.
I'm not gonna look it up.
I'm telling you,
I believe you.
And just because like mascots will knock popcorn out of people's hands, push people as a joke, and some people don't like that. And I think what Gritty did was he punched a kid in the back.
He did, yes.
Oh, is that what he did?
Yeah, in a photo shoot, he went like bam and punched him in the back. I don't know how hard, but to me it sounds. I don't want to be this guy. It definitely sounds like it's not that big of a problem, and they're making it kind of a bigger problem than it needs to be. But that's all I got to say on that.
All right. So predictions, real quick. Super Bowl. Who wins? And if you have a final score, let's toss that in as well.
I'm thinking it could go up into the 40s, potentially. I'm going 35-31. I don't even know who's going to win. That's going to be the final score.
Right. I think for me, just with my love for Andy Reid and just how long he's been at this game and wants to win a Super Bowl as a head coach, my heart kind of goes for him and that Chiefs team. But I look at that 49ers team, I just see the weapons on that team. I see the defense on that team, and that's cliche, defense wins championships, except for in college football, of course, where people can just throw 1,000. So I definitely will go ahead and say I think that 49ers team will win it. I'm going to give a final score of 38-31. How about you, 49er fan?
I do think the Niners win. I'll say 38-35. It's going to come down to one stop.
I agree.
The Niners have the majority of the time of possession, but again, you don't need to give Mahomes that much time. He'll probably strike very quickly. The one thing to look out for, though, the last two playoff games, Chiefs have started out really slow. I'm not sure if they can afford if they can afford a start like that against the Niners.
One thing I will say about the 49ers, I feel like all the 49ers really have to do is just stop them once or twice.
Yeah.
And it's their day.
I think it's being slept on. I mean, I'm not saying the 49ers, the team themselves, are being oh, we're going to win. But I think, the media and the storyline going into this game is, how are the Chiefs going to win this game? And now I'm starting to think the Chiefs are being slept on.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Andy Reid has been in Kansas City for 7 years and has never had a losing season. And this is the best record. Well, actually, it's not the best record. He went 12-4 last year. But he went 12-4 a couple times. Actually.
Right.
But I think this is probably the best team he's had since then. And when he got there, that was a defense-first team.
Right, yeah.
It was a very defensive team. And now he's been there long enough. It's become the exact opposite. And he's never had a losing season. I'm going to go Chiefs.
Chiefs?
Yeah.
I'll go 49ers.
All right. Real quick, I do want to explain. I know Niners kind of out there. I've never really been a huge football guy. And,
big controversy right here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Nick bandwagon.
The first year he really gets in the football, he picks the 49ers, and now they're in the Super Bowl.
So my dad was always kind of liked the 49ers. It really goes back to Joe Montana. My dad's a big Notre Dame fan as well. But when he kind of really Joe Montana and Jay Rice and that kind of group, and so he always kind of had a soft spot for them. And I grew up, again, not really watching too much professional football, but I was it was kind of cool. He'd always have, kind of back when they were real bad, my poor Niners. And so this year I decided, because we had a plan to do Sunday night steaks where we'd get together and watch the Sunday night game, and I figured, you know what?
How many times did that happen?
It happened, I think, twice.
Yeah.
But going into the season,
maybe next season,
starting week 1, I was you know what? I'm gonna get into it this year. I want to be able to be up to date and enjoy Sunday night steaks with other guys who really know football, except for Al.
Right. And honestly,
he's a Chiefs guy.
It was gonna be the three of us. Let's be honest, it would be there most of the time.
And so, I figured, this should be the year I really get into it. And so for that case, I'll root for the Niners. I'll kind of adopt my dad's kind of semi-team, and then. It looks really bad for me right now because it's the year I decided to really get into it.
Yeah, it's kind of sketchy.
They're going all the way.
Makes up for it that the Red Wings are probably one of the worst teams in the history of the NFL.
So, so that's my whole story with the Niners. That is the Super Bowl next Sunday. Oof, my goodness. What a game.
And we will be at the Laupius.
Yes. I graciously invited them in. We'll see how that goes. I apologize in advance for my behavior.
Oh, it's your team.
So we'll see.
I'm surprised you're doing this, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
Because that's the problem with hosting a Super Bowl party. If your team's in it, especially if they win, you're gonna have the best night of your life. If they lose, then okay, everyone get out.
That's why I didn't want to have one last year, and Al's like, "No, let's have one." And then everyone came over and rooted for the Patriots. That was a fun time.
Yeah.
Oh no, I got that was.
I went to my room.
I had
my room
one too many beers that night. I will say that.
Seems to happen a lot. Anyway, all right, so that's Super Bowl. We got that. Roland, I know you're kind of the NBA expert, I guess, out of the three of us. So we're getting into NBA talk. I'm not sure how long this will last. Tom
Right, yeah, we'll make it.
We're not too great about it, but let's start off with obviously the hometown Mavericks. Dwight Powell is out for the season. You wouldn't think that would be a huge blow to this Mavericks team, but the way they've kind of built around this roster, especially injuries with KP being in and out, Mavericks making a trade earlier, actually yesterday, they got Willie Cauley-Stein from the Warriors. They sent a second-round draft pick. It'll be interesting to see what kind of presence that center has. I mean, if anything, we'll probably just give them a little more depth. But the Mavericks, obviously shocking a lot of people, lost today to Utah, but the Mavericks right now still in 6th place, 28-17, 8 games behind the Lakers for that number 1 spot. But what a year it's been for them, and really maybe a year or two ahead of schedule based on the age of Luka Doncic and what he's turned out to be, and then obviously KP.
Right, absolutely, and especially seeing Luka, I'm still kind of surprised to this day that he was actually drafted by the Hawks and then traded when the Mavs drafted Trae Young. And now the Hawks are actually last in their conference right now. And it just kind of boggles my mind. It just kind of boggles my mind. And like Trae Young's a great player, but then I also kind of look at like, well, what Luka Doncic, forgive me, he kind of does a little bit more for that team. He definitely I think he when he was a rookie, he had the top assists among rookies at the time. You know, he's always there for the rebound. The only thing about Luka himself and that team that does concern me is that he's still really young.
Yeah.
And there are times where, myself personally, because he is so young, there are times I kind of question his maturity. And
there was a few weeks ago against the Lakers, tore his jersey pretty much in half in frustration.
Not even that, because to me, I think that shows he's a competitor.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, fans are going to love that more.
No, I certainly did. I was in the stands for that. It was the first Mavs game I've been to this year.
Was that the tornado game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But things that he does that I'm, especially with that team around, that worries me is I don't want that to get to his head. And there are times where I've seen it I think it was an All-Star game. And he's sitting down on the bench, and Dirk walks in, and he's the only one sitting down. And when Dirk walks in, he stands up, and he's like, oh, yeah, Dirk's here, so now I got to put on my best behavior. Hey, and now that Dirk's kind of gone, that I feel like that mentorship's kind of gone, because it's the reason they drafted him.
Yeah.
They want, foreign player, they wanted Dirk to kind of give him the reins. I don't want him to get that idea that he can be the next Dirk. Well, sure, maybe he can. He might even be better than that.
You look at the numbers he's putting up just as a second year. What he is the youngest guy to be selected to an All-Star game since LeBron, and LeBron's second year in the league. So,
yeah, people.
I know Tommy doesn't know.
I don't want to.
I'm giving him a look over here.
I don't want to, and I'm a little rusty on my Dallas Mavericks specifically.
Yeah.
I'm a little rusty, but I don't like how players kind of compare him to be the next LeBron James, because LeBron James is special, and that's why I don't like the LeBron James MJ debate. That's why I don't like the Kobe Bryant and LeBron James debate.
Because completely different eras, different players.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely. And I
tune in for a couple episodes from now when we have the said debate.
Right, but one thing I will talk about in basketball.
We'll have Luka on.
I'm going to go ahead and talk about teams that are surprising to me, who I think can make a really good run.
Well, and that kind of goes into the next thing. Can anyone stop the Bucks in the East?
It's always funny in basketball, the Western
40-6.
Right, 40-6.
Oh my God.
They have lost games to the 76ers, and that was in a very embarrassing Christmas Day game.
It was.
That they lost to. And the 76ers are number 6 in that conference.
The Rockets also lost to the Warriors on Christmas Day.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah,
it's like that team can
upsets on Christmas Day.
That was a fun Christmas Day, except for that, the few blowouts in there. But I will say, I look at the Eastern Conference, and the teams that definitely I think can compete for that, as I can see Jimmy Butler and the Heat kind of compete for that. They're about 9 games behind the Bucks, who are in that number 1 spot. The Eastern Conference is kind of funny. It's kind of a little bit patty cakey. as I'd like to say. There's not a lot of competition in that conference. In the Western Conference, it's just a bloodbath.
That's going to be a reoccurring thing on
It's
the
like-
show.
It's like you look at the NFC and the AFC, and the AFC tends to have a little bit of an easier schedule, and that's for another discussion. But teams, I definitely think the big team that can compete against the Buck is the Raptors, just because they're coming off that championship team. Mm-hmm. They definitely have a lot of those same players. Sure, Kawhi Leonard's gone, but I don't think Kawhi Leonard completely makes that team. You look at guys, Kyle Lowry still on that team. Gasol still on that team, and you have guys who can come off the bench who I think he even starts now, Fred VanVleet. You have a bunch of these guys that are still very much a core of that, and they're still very much, what's the word? When you've been around for a while. Experience, yeah. They're definitely more experienced.
Unlike us in podcasting.
And as for the Bucks,
speak for yourself.
Yeah. Oh. As for the Bucks, they haven't. As for the Bucks, they haven't been to a NBA championship game yet, and I think they actually ended up losing to the Raptors in the playoffs series before to even go to the NBA Finals. So I think that Bucks team looks good, but I think near the end of the season, if there's like injuries that pop up every so often, which unfortunately is an unfortunate part of the game, that's something to keep an eye on. Mm-hmm. But I definitely think if you need to pick teams, that Raptors team just has the experience, they have the coaching, they've done it before, and that's more than what the Bucks can say.
I feel like that'd say a lot about them too, to go and win again without Kawhi.
Yeah.
He's a fun guy.
Who do you see out of the West? Because that's kind of
the West. The teams
it's a little closer.
The team right now that like I just love to watch. They're very fun to watch. They're a young team and they're only going to get better. And I'm not going to say they're making an NBA championship run, but Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies are a fun team to watch. Just every time he's Rookie of the Year. Mm-hmm. I know I'll talk about Zion in a minute. He's absolutely Rookie of the Year. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. What he's been able to do for that team, he's a human highlight reel. And there's a lot of questions, especially with him coming out of a small college like Murray State, if he could compete and play to that level. But he's the star of that team. And I don't think the Memphis Grizzlies would have traded Mike Conley to the Utah Jazz if they didn't see him as such. And he's a guy, I believe they have the number 8 seed, number 8 right now. I think they won 6 games. They recently just won 6 games in a row. I think they've had 2 bad losses in there. And especially with the Western Conference, whoever gets that 8 seed will probably have a losing record because that's just how competitive the West is. And I definitely, the Jazz are number 2. I just don't see that team lasting, even though they do have Mike Conley. They'd have experienced guys who can do it. I just that's a team I've never been able to believe in enough. The Nuggets, I think, are a team that's
It's a stupid name.
The Denver Nuggets. The gold.
Nuggets.
I know, that's dumb.
Rush.
They have one of the coolest logos in sports.
They really, I've always enjoyed
It's a
it.
dumb name.
Well, it's like they have the two.
That logo is pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
It's a cool
and it
logo.
goes with their name.
Their mantra.
It's one of those. I'm just picturing it's like a chicken McNugget. Like,
No, it's like a gold nugget.
I know what
It's a little more
I
valuable.
know what it's referring
than
to.
a chicken nugget.
I know what you're referring to.
I would say the team that has surprised me in a bit of a fall is definitely the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
Because I thought by pairing James Harden with his old teammate Westbrook would be this great dynamic duo.
I knew you have 2 ball hogs on the court at the same time. No, it's not going to work.
It's like you and me when we used to play.
It's like there's the Twitter memes where, good God, it's like the Twitter memes where you have 2 people staring at each other, and it's like when you're one rebound away from getting the triple double, it's like Russell Westbrook and James Harden. But I hope especially near the latter half of the season, they can kind of find their own way a little bit and learn to work together. They're 2 great players. I always have questioned the team around the Rockets because they have always kind of given rid of
And not to
guys.
mention that's a pretty bad sports town as well.
Well, let's not go that far.
Probably wearing buzzers.
Buzzers that know when to shoot threes. But I definitely think they've gotten rid of some key defensive players I don't think they needed to have done, especially with Ariza, who they traded to for the Suns. Or I don't think they traded to him, but I think they let him walk as a free agent. So definitely the Clippers are up there too. Kawhi, his workload's kind of iffy. But I think that's a team that's always been kind of built good. They were a playoff team without Kawhi and without Paul George, and now that both of those guys are there, I think especially come playoffs, especially with a good coach in Doc Rivers, that's the team to make the run. Everyone thinks it's going to be the Battle of LA for the Western Conference, but we'll just see how that season plays out and where it goes from there. But yeah, right now, we're at that midway point. We're not at the All-Star game, so you just got to kind of have to play the league by ear.
So there's that. Real quick, did you get to see any bit of Zion's debut?
I did, and he physically impresses me. I think he had 17 points in his fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He just turned it on, and
I saw it on Twitter.
He could do it all. I mean, he could shoot threes. He could swap balls out of the
I saw
air.
that.
And then,
That was awesome.
Physically,
Yeah,
he's just a monster, just 280 pounds. And that's one thing I will say about Zion that I don't like, is I don't like how everyone kind of has to be like, oh, wow, he's 280 and he's doing all that.
Yeah.
He's a great athlete. He's a great kid. And there is a part of me, there's a conspiracy theory in me, that where he had been sidelined for injury, a part of me thinks the Pelicans just were like, let's not get a big rush out. Let's see how we kind of play in the lottery in the draft a little bit.
I can't wait to get into conspiracy theories.
Sports
later into not even sports.
That's an episode in
Conspiracies
itself, is sports conspiracies.
Michael Jordan never had AIDS.
You're thinking of
Michael Jordan.
No, Michael didn't either.
the MJ betting scandal. That's the controversy.
That's that. I got those mixed. That's why he went basketball.
Yeah, Zion.
Baseball.
It wasn't because of the AIDS.
He
Apparently,
got his dad killed from the mob.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
Same with JFK.
Yeah, but one thing about that Pelicans team is they got a lot of picks from the Lakers when they traded.
The hometown.
I say they got a lot of good players out from the Lakers. Brandon Ingram's having a career year so far. Lonzo Ball's been kind of quiet, but I definitely think he can play the Rajon Rondo and kind of give those rebounds and assists where the team plays better when he's on the field, kind of thing. So I think Zion.
The court.
Well, the court, yeah.
On the playing field.
Well, anyway,
It's gonna get petty in the last quarter of this podcast.
if we're gonna get into technicalities.
Well, right now we're in. I would.
But
say,
let's move on to the next one.
Oh, all right, yeah, all right. Hockey. We'll start with, because you said this year you wanted to get a little more into hockey.
Yeah.
And Dallas started with the worst record ever.
Like what? 0-8, I think.
It rolls
Two different seasons in one for the Stars. I mean, now they look like almost unbeatable night in and night out. And then,
I don't know, that Minnesota Wild loss was rough. That was a rough game to watch.
Montgomery getting fired for unknown reasons, and then about a few weeks later, he did admit that he has a drinking problem. He is into rehab right now, so best of luck to him. And
Probably gonna coach again.
He probably.
absolutely.
He'll probably coach the Stars again.
I mean, if he gets that under control, he showed he's a really talented coach. In a league where it recycles the same 30 coaches,
I've got an article up on
you could really use a guy like Jim Montgomery if he can get that under control. He's a really bright hockey mind.
God forbid they hire a coach who maybe hasn't coached 32 other teams before, and they're still in a 31 league team.
31 league team.
So all right, so I'm gonna go on a tangent here.
Go ahead. That's what you're here for.
Let's see. The Flames fire Bill Peters. Honestly, I don't even remember why.
Racist comments.
Yeah, okay. Because
pretty serious.
No, I know it was serious, but
you're making it sound like I don't know why they fired.
No, I'm saying
there was nothing
I
wrong
forgot
with
because they started canning all these guys who beat their players and stuff. Then you got Babs in Toronto, who that was more of a psychological abuse.
After he talked about how big mental health is, how important that is.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
That's rough.
That speech,
He used to be a big advocate. He was for Bell Let's Talk, a big holiday, not holiday, but a big awareness day in Canada for mental health.
And he was the measure of a man.
Yeah, he always talks about how important mental health is and how you treat others, and now it's come out, even back to his days in Detroit was... Really,
back in his days in Anaheim.
Yeah, all the way back was mentally abusing players.
And so then Hines in New Jersey...
that might have just been because they're terrible.
Yeah, I know. It's just a lot of Montgomery and Dallas. We talked about that. Peter DeBoer in San Jose,
who then got, I believe, hired in Vegas
because they fired Gerard Gallant, which I don't understand because the guy took them to the finals their first year in existence, and they were the number one team in the division at the time.
Wasn't that a team that kind of built to win immediately?
They're still winning though. And that's the thing. So don't fire your coach.
Right,
Why would you fire?
Yeah.
It's almost as if they saw DeBoer get fired and they're like, "Oh, we wanted him anyway. Let's go. Let's go fire our guy and get him." And then Pilov in Nashville. I didn't really understand. They were underperforming, but that guy's probably the best coach out of all of. Well, I guess Babcock's better. But he's the best coach out of all.
But that's all happened in a matter of a few months, really.
Right.
5 coaches were fired between Red Wings wins.
Golly, that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I mean Red Wings could go months without wins. So but again, that and then But again, we'll see Gerard Gallant. He'll be somewhere. We'll see.
I wonder if
Bill Peters somewhere.
I don't know if Bill Peters is going anywhere else after.
I don't know. I mean,
So this is a weird.
Peter Laviolette for sure will be
That
somewhere
guy's really good.
next year.
This is a weird side note. But Nick, you were at the Winter Classic, right?
Yes, I
when
was.
the Dallas Stars hosted the Nashville Predators.
Yes, that is
Very,
correct.
very fun environment.
It was, yes.
But I have some problems with that environment.
All right.
And I'm going to talk
Let's get
I'm
into
going
it.
to talk about it.
Let's
This is
get
a side
into
note.
it.
This is something.
It was a showdown in the South.
Okay, now that's problem number one.
a lot of the people up north in Canada, New York, and all that were upset at the NHL, saying, "Well, yeah, nothing says hockey like playing outside in Texas, have a Texas and Nashville team play."
All right, so this is
But
where
I thought it went great.
I'm glad that they put that game there. I'm glad it showed that there are fans in the South who want that to happen. And I'm glad those fans, like you especially, got to see that game. You know,
Good game, too.
Great game.
Fantastic.
It was such a fun game.
Couldn't ask for much more.
But I swear to you, I was so tired. I was so tired of them being like, "Oh, we're from the South, and we're gonna have when the Stars walked out. When the Stars
they played
walked
too
out,
much into the stereotype.
oh my God!
The intro was
If you've
pretty
been to Dallas, Texas, it's not Hickville. But good golly, if you watch a
Grand
Cowboys game,
Fort Worth.
you watch a Stars game, that's what they're gonna have you believe because they're like, "Oh, it's a Lone Stars showdown. We got to get the cattle in or something like that." I'm like, "What the?" So I don't
I've
like.
never seen cattle or livestock in Dallas.
No, neither have I.
Fort Worth.
Well, Fort Worth's different.
yeah,
that's
that's
different. That's
different.
different.
I know.
But like when the team walks out, and there's like the dancers, and they're the country blue jean wearing big bucket,
You have that
cowboy hat.
in downtown Dallas. So yeah, Billy
Yeah,
Bob's
but
and
but
clubs
that's
like
different.
that.
That's different because it's not.
It's like a novelty.
It's like it's like trying to be country at that
Yeah.
point. It's not like thrown in your
And
face.
as an actual
and then-
country person,
right.
you take offense to
And
that.
like I thought the walkout was perfect.
Roland's like, I could do it better.
I thought the walkout was perfect with the guys that, of course, I just didn't like the dancers. And they all had to do their little two-step twirl and get out of the way of the Stars walking in. The coach is wearing the 10-gallon hat. Who's never won that hat before probably will never.
I thought that was kind of funny.
I mean, it's funny. I got a laugh out of it, but it's silly. And then,
I agree with
And then the
that.
halftime entertainment's like, oh, look at the monkey riding the dog, and he dropped his little cowboy hat. Got to go pick him up.
And you didn't see this loud, but going into commercial.
And then they were
it
like
was all,
hog-tagging
like,
pigs.
It just the music was all like, crack a cold beer. Yeah, like,
And then even during media timeouts, they would do pig races.
See, that's
in
what
the
I'm saying.
stadium.
That's so silly. There's no need for that. That's such a Hickville thing. Why would you? I just don't understand why they want that stigma and that stereotype pushed down. And people have made the joke of like, was it Tony X who was like Nashville and Dallas trying to out-country each other, and it's like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other.
Speaking of Tony X, I want this podcast to get successful enough that we interview Tony X.
That will be the
He
day.
is my
would be
favorite
great.
Twitter personality.
He's pretty good. He's
Not
pretty
just in general. I love the guy.
If we could easily send him a DM and be like, "Hey, we're trying to make a podcast. Can we could do a phone call?"
I remember seeing that moment on Twitter when he first discovered hockey. Oh, that was just great to follow, like how he started liking, and then they gave him tickets for crying out loud to a
Then the
playoff
Blues
game
won the
that year,
Stanley Cup.
and then 2 years
Yeah.
later they won the cup. That's great. But yeah, I love Tony X. Maybe we can get him.
Here's
if we
hoping
get big enough.
that experience happens to Rowley,
Here's hoping we get at least 100 people to listen to this.
or just all of our parents 100 times.
Right.
We'll see. All right, so I think that's really it for hockey. We're winding down toward the end here. Let's do a quick rapid fire segment here. I'll start. I'll do New Rangers Ballpark. They did a peek at the park today. It's a lot smaller seating wise. They still have about 10%. That they have to do. Looks like a little more than 10% when I was in there today. Opening day, March 31st.
Just go build it yourself.
It's going to be really cool. It's just very exciting. It doesn't look too much like Minute Maid Park. I was worried about that. It was going to look too much like the Astros one. But going in there today, it looked pretty good. All right, we're done with that.
That really was rapid
Yes,
fire.
Yeah.
men's basketball at UNT. Another win today. So that was against. Yes, that was at here. That was here in the Super Pit.
Who they
against,
played?
UTEP.
Okay.
67-57 the final, and this is coming off the heels of a win Thursday night against UTSA 98-78.
Was that like a 20-point win?
So 14-8 overall, or the Mean Green. They are 10-2 at the Super Pit, and they are 4-4 on the road. 8-1 in conference play. That is good enough for the top spot in the conference, and is also their best start since 2010. And we just honored that team Thursday night, and the team that won the Sun Belt Championship and made an appearance to the March Madness tournament. It's the last time that North Texas was in there. They had a good run there in the late 2000s, making it a few times.
So are you saying tournament? March Madness? We're going to be in it?
You have to
win conference?
They'll probably have to win the conference tournament. So the remaining schedule, they are at Rice, at Middle Tennessee, at UAB, and then versus Charlotte and Old Dominion. And then we have 2 weeks of bonus play. So
bonus play.
Bonus play.
Conference USA is the only conference that's doing this right now, where the last part of the conference schedule, where they break the teams up into pods. So the top 5 teams will all play against each other. The middle 5 teams all play against each other, and then the last last 4 teams play against each other. This did not work for them last year, but they want this to have their top 5 teams get more quality wins, so they can get more than just the conference champion into the March Madness tournament. Again, didn't work last year, but if North Texas keeps on this pace right now, they will be the number 1 seed going into pod play. And if they end up with number 1 seed, they can obviously get a first round bye in the conference tournament. And then who knows? That's going to be right here in the Star in Frisco for the 3rd straight year. So probably a good turnout for that. But this men's basketball team, they are a lot of fun to watch, and they have a lot of depth as well. I don't know if you've been able to get out to a game yet.
Alumni have much better things to do.
Oh.
Wow.
No, that's not true. I'll make my way out to a game.
My goodness.
Wow.
I will make my way out to a game.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was a good podcast. We're never going to do this again because, you just broke up Roland and Nick right here.
Well, we're about to have a breakup fight about this hot boys controversy.
Real quick, though, the last 3 men's home games, the crowd has been phenomenal. We're getting more and more people every game. It's a lot of fun. The players are definitely feeding off of it. And again, they have a good chance of getting that top spot going into pot play, and maybe perhaps even the conference tournament could result. Who knows?
Tossing out cash.
Who knows? Yes.
Parking passes now.
We're giving away $500.
Oh, great.
And parking passes, students that show up. So go to those games. All right.
I want to lead this one in.
Go ahead.
All right.
This is the final one of the podcast.
Probably the most heated one of the con.
Very underrated rivalry in the NFL, because in the last 20 years hasn't really been.
Yeah, because the 49ers have sucked the last 20 years until they tank and now they're in the Super Bowl. That just shows that you can just be piss poor and get those top 5 picks, and now you're in the Super Bowl.
I mean, I guess it's better than going 8-8 every year in first round.
At least you're competing.
Is it really competing?
Okay. Anyways,
I don't think it is.
Anyways,
no. How many playoff wins have you had in the millennium?
In the millennium?
Starting in 2000.
That's really silly. Oh my God, that's so silly. Like what? 2 or 3? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Okay,
that's pretty bad.
I was just starting to think, we were going to return this podcast off and be like, oh, that was good. I was going to be like, we're being a little too professional here. I'm glad that we finally got into this area.
No, okay, but what were you going to bring up?
Oh, I just, heated rivalry,
right.
The catch.
That's the most overrated play in sports history. I swear to you.
Sure.
Come right next to the Immaculate Reception.
Fan, yeah.
Right next to the Immaculate Reception. Most overrated play in sports history.
Okay.
It's just a catch. The Cowboys still had time to come back.
But they didn't.
But if they did,
how did they?
If they
So
did,
they didn't.
when Candlesticks, they retired Candlestick Park or whatever that was. That Monday night game. We're like, well, last game at Candlestick where the catch was. They probably played that clip. I'm not even kidding. 7 times. That's for one play. For one play.
He's not giving anything substance for that, so I'm just going to let you continue
cut
the
to
conversation.
the 90s. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then they both get really good.
Yeah. And how many Super Bowls do you have the proof for it? Because I have 3.
Since you've been alive?
No, this is the 90s.
Oh, okay.
It's like you're not even listening.
And then Dion flipping sides, going to Dallas. Each team building up. Charles Haley. That's so wild.
What a guy.
Both teams basically making moves not to beat their division rivals in the regular season. It's to beat the other team in the conference champion because they knew they were going there. So now, there's a new thing that these guys are trying to beat each other on. And that's Hot Boys.
All right.
Take it away.
Can I start this one?
Yeah, I'll give you the floor.
So DeMarcus Lawrence, number 90 on the Dallas Cowboys, he started the Hot Boys trend. And the Hot Boys trend was the whole entire defense having a mantra to get into it. And it was a big deal. It was really funny when they had the Hot Boys photo and they asked Sean Lee why he wasn't in it. And Sean Lee's like, well, maybe I'm just not.
Because he was hurt.
Yeah, not fit to be in it.
Not as hurt as J.J. Watt, though.
Okay.
And the next time you see that photo, you have Rod Marinelli and he's doing the little signs, and you have Sean Lee in there. And the next thing you know, when Sean Lee had that three tackles in a row, he goes in, he has his own handshake with the Hot Boys and everybody. It's this great team bonding thing. They sold merch on it. When the Black Cat ran on the field at MetLife
That's what
Stadium.
they're worried about now instead of
when the Black Cat ran on the field at MetLife Stadium and doing his little paws. The next thing we see,
that's
DeMarcus Lawrence
right
selling his shirt of the Black Cat with the chain that says Hot Boys. So now,
what that Black Cat get you, huh?
So now the 49ers...
An 8-8 season and losing in the weakest division of all of football.
Now the 49ers...
Pancakey division.
They're trying to hop on the Hot Boys trend. I've never seen a single post about them being the Hot Boys.
They've done it throughout the season.
And every time I see it, DeMarcus Lawrence is like, hey, stop, we're the Hot Boys. We called it first, find your own thing. Be the Bay Boys. The Bay Boys. Mm-hmm. The Boys in the Bay.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
Boys in the Bay?
No, it sounds like a bad 2000s boy band.
No, Boys in the Bay actually, for me, rolls off better than Hot Boys. Boys
rolls better, but it's not good for a football team.
So give us Hot Boys and you guys
take Boys we can't be Boys in the Bay.
There's a pod outside of Jerry World.
Okay, but anyway, what's your silly argument to this? What is it? What is your silly argument to this Hot Boys controversy? That is so mind-numbingly stupid.
Yeah, it just shows me that Cowboys players and Cowboys fans have nothing important to fixate on.
It's not even about that. It's about copyright. They've been selling that merch for 2 years now.
On the copyright.
Yeah.
It's not about team performance. It's about who had it first.
And when you have a team that just really has no success, you have time to focus on other things.
There's different definitions for success. They were in the playoffs last year. They had a playoff win last year. We're all 49ers when that was happening. That's when Hot Boys was out. That's when Hot Boys started.
And you know what? A playoff win is a huge success for the Cowboys.
Compared to a team that went okay, we're going to bleep that out.
A team that is in the Super Bowl this year.
5 wins maybe last year?
A team that's in the Super Bowl this year.
I'm sorry, what was your win record last year?
Maybe 4 wins.
See, maybe 5. Wow, okay, my bad, 5.
All right, so how many
anyways,
how many playoff wins did you guys have in 2010 up to this year?
2010 up to this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Even the biggest fan has to do math on that.
Look it up. 2? It can't be more than 3.
Playoff wins. I thought you meant their record.
No.
So wins would be like the Lions.
That's on me, man.
Maybe 2.
Lions, Seahawks. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The Niners on that.
And then
they have as many.
The Niners have more. Niners have more actually. In 2012, they went to the Super Bowl, lost to the Ravens.
Colin Kaepernick in his prime.
Yeah, and then they...
who I will say right now, should be in the league.
And then the following year, they get to the NFC, believe, championship in Seattle. Richard Sherman
that was on your team. You have his jersey, too.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Richard Sherman, the kind of guy he is off the field. And
frankly, on the field.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have this year. So the better team of the decade, if we're going by playoff wins, which, the Cowboys having a playoff win last year is a huge success.
I hope the Niners win. I think
we see who has more success in this last decade. Again, there's no doubt that the Cowboys had Hot Boys first. I just find it really funny that DeMarcus Lawrence, one of the captains on that team,
captains in quotation marks?
Yeah.
You're really he's earned the right to be a captain. That's just silly.
On a crappy defense that had such a terrible second half. When you get off to such a great start, when Cowboys fans we are winning the Super Bowl because we've beaten 3 really crappy teams.
I didn't say that.
And then I'm not saying you, I'm not you in particular, a lot of the Cowboys people out there said that.
You were worried about this being too professional. I feel like we've steamed too far and we're too unprofessional.
No, this is perfect.
So
this is literally what I wanted.
It's just
when I said let's make a podcast.
It's just fun. And you've seen people tweet back at DeMarcus Lawrence, Cowboys fans, really. should you really be poking at them, like making fun of them?
My thing is like
the rule is they
San
make
Francisco
the Super Bowl. You don't make fun of them.
If San Francisco cared so much, they would have like tried to copyright that earlier, which they haven't. So
since 2010, the Cowboys have 86 wins in the regular season. The San Francisco 49ers have 80.
Woo! Woo! Yeah.
Do they have playoff wins in there?
Yeah, they do.
NFC championships in the last 10 years?
3.
For the Niners?
Oh no, 1. But they went to 3 games.
Well, 3 or 2 now because of this year.
Oh, 4. 4 in the decade.
On the decade, they won in 2012.
Yeah, but well, they didn't win.
Well,
they won the
NFC championship.
They went to the conference championship 11, 12, and 13, and they won in 12.
Yeah,
and they lost the Super Bowl.
Okay,
but then they won this year, and for whatever reason,
so it's
have it
twice.
On there.
How many do the Cowboys have? NFC championships in the decade.
Let's
go back to 2000.
The
answer is still 0.
The problem is I go and I
that's the
the
point.
problem is I log out of these pages and I have to go back.
So I mean, sure, go ahead. Worry about making money off merchandise all you want. It's not going to change anything. What a monumental disaster this season was for the Cowboys.
Not
but sure,
monumental.
you know what? Go ahead and go keep selling your Hot Boys merch because that's doing great for you.
We'll have this discussion much more in depth, much longer, like later.
Enjoy your fancy burger, Mr. President.
I mean, it's just.
Anyways, I think it's time. I think it's
my
time
goodness.
to sign out.
I mean, it's a slogan.
You have to get the last word on this.
And for a team
for real
that just had such a meltdown.
It's not. Oh my god. It was bad. I will admit this has probably been one of the more disappointing seasons.
That's it right there. With expectations and the talent on this roster, this was such a huge letdown.
And now we have Mike
Cowboys.
McCarthy, and we'll see what magic he can pull.
Yeah, because he got run out of Green Bay for. But who knows? It might work here. You never know. Yeah, you done? All right, Tommy. Any last words from you?
Oh, not really. The Steelers have more wins than the 2 of those teams, so that's all that matters.
Roland, any last things from you?
Hot Boys for life.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first
Hot Boys
episode.
podcast with 3 Z's.
Yes, we're gonna get that trademark. We're gonna get some merch.
No, we're not. We're absolutely gonna lose that lawsuit.
You can DM me on Twitter at Nick_Laupius for some Hot Boys Z merch.
Is that even your handle?
For this podcast? It is, yes.
Oh.
But yes, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Nick Laupius, Roland Stephens, Tommy McClear for Get the Ball Rowland inaugural podcast.